with that being said, we'll be moving on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the biggest upsets that transpired in college football this previous week in college football. So week 6 was a lot of upsets. I'll be covering the 4 biggest upsets that transpired in week 6 of college football. Now we'll start off with the biggest upset of the weekend. It was Vanderbilt defeating Alabama, the number one ranked Alabama, 40-35. Now, with all due respect, how did an academic team, an academic school, and Vanderbilt defeat the number one ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, an Alabama team that was buzzing after their big SEC victory against the Georgia Bulldogs? I think this Vanderbilt victory against Alabama, I have to stamp it as the biggest upset SEC victory in SEC conference history. This was the first time that Vanderbilt beat Alabama since 1984, and this was Vanderbilt's first victory against a top 5 ranked opponent in program history. So Vanderbilt, you deserve a lot of credit for what you did. That is a true Cinderella story in college football. Students, after the game, the students were running on the field, celebrating. They even took down the damn field goal post and took it home as a damn souvenir off the field for what Vanderbilt did, defeating the number one ranked Alabama and defeating a Heisman, somebody that's in the running for the Heisman, and Jalen Milroe and company. I mean, I gotta say that the game plan that Vanderbilt had, control the clock and control the ball for a total of 42 minutes, clean football, no turnovers, keeping Jalen Milroe and this Alabama offense off the field. That was a perfect game plan by Vanderbilt, and I gotta say that I don't know if we're gonna see a big upset like that anytime soon in college football. But I'm declaring that to be the biggest SEC upset in SEC conference history. Now, the next game, you saw Arkansas defeat the number 4th ranked Tennessee 19-14. Now, this was another big SEC upset that transpired week 6. Now, Arkansas had to hang on to get this win against Tennessee, at home against Tennessee. That was a grinded out game, and I give Arkansas's defense a lot of credit for holding this high-powered Tennessee offense to a total of 0 points in the first half. I mean, in the second half. I mean, this Tennessee team offense averages 53 points per game. So Arkansas had to overcome a 14-3 deficit, losing their starting quarterback of Taylon Green due to a lower body injury in the fourth quarter. And then you saw Malachi Singleton, backup quarterback for Arkansas, step in, have a game-winning drive, and that helped Arkansas defeat the 4th best team in the country at the time in Tennessee to get a huge SEC victory. That was huge for them. Next upset, you had the 25th ranked Texas A&M blowing out the 9th ranked Missouri 41-10. Now, again, the SEC is well, there was a lot going on in the SEC in terms of upsets in that conference this weekend. And that's the reason why the SEC is must-watch football. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been very high on this Texas A&M team since week 1 of the college football season this year. They just had that stinging loss to Notre Dame week 1, but they haven't looked back since. They've been dominant ever since that loss, and they just dominated a top 10 team, or what was a top 10 team at the time, in Missouri, 41-10. And I got to say, that was an impressive victory. I mean, Le'Veon Moss at the running back position went off. He had a total of 138 rushing yards, 3 total rushing touchdowns in that ball game to help Texas A&M dominate Missouri. And I feel bad for Luther Burton, who realistically is one of the best players heading into this 2025 NFL draft at the wide receiver position. He's got the speed. He's a great route runner. But I feel like Luther Burton, after this devastating loss, might consider sitting out. If things get worse, might consider sitting out and basically preparing for the NFL draft if Missouri loses a ball game like this again. I just felt like his time at Missouri has actually been wasted, to be honest. He should have been in the transfer portal. The last game I'll cover, it was the Washington Huskies defeating the 10th ranked reigning defending national champions in the Michigan Wolverines. They won that ball game 27-17, which was a national championship rematch from last college football season. Now, I will have to say that obviously this wasn't the magnitude of the national championship rematch between the Huskies and the Wolverines this previous weekend of college football, because obviously there's several players like Michael Penix Jr., Odunze, Blake Corum, J.J. McCarthy, and obviously the head coaches of Jim Harbaugh and Kalen DeBoer have moved on from these respective programs and went on their own rights. So it didn't live up to the magnitude of what the college football championship was last year. But I gotta say, this was a Big Ten victory for the Washington Huskies. Meanwhile, Michigan, the Wolverines have no answer right now, and they look very weak and look like paper champions as national champions. Now, I understand that they lost their quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, but there's no damn life at the quarterback position right now for the Michigan Wolverines. They're just lost. They don't have a good offensive line. It's not as dominant as what it used to be, with how Jim Harbaugh used to run the ball down your throat. And the backbone of this team, and Donovan Edwards, their best offensive player, has yet to crack an 100-yard rushing game this college football season. So I see this Michigan Wolverines team, I don't see them actually making the playoffs. I think this is basically not a rebuild year, but this is going to be a stinging year as national champions after they lost so much talent and obviously lost the head coach of Jim Harbaugh. So this is obviously not the same team, and the defense isn't as strong as well. So even though, I mean, I guess it's worth it, I guess, in a way, because Michigan did win it all last year. But those are my thoughts on the biggest upsets that transpired in college football in Week 6.